So welcome to the Collaborations webinar. My name is Birai. I'm an instructor here I'm a trainer at Instructure Canvas. And we are today going to focus on specifically, in the course, we're going to specifically focus on collaborative areas or activities. So we'll talk about discussions a little bit. We'll talk about group assignments, student groups, collaborative environments, collaborations, and conferences. So again, some of this will look familiar to you. So if you have additional questions, feel free to ask. And some of it will be new for those of you who weren't here on Monday. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I end up here my homepage for one of the courses. And on the homepage, there are a couple of things that in order to start collaborating, there are a couple of things you should know. The first thing, and the most important thing, is when it comes to collaborative activities, creating groups is probably the first thing you want to start thinking about. How do you get your students to collaborate? Not just on the assignments in general, but do you want to have a space to collaborate in, things like that. So let's go ahead and go through the process of how to create groups. The way you create groups in a class, or student groups, is through the People tab. So if you click on the People tab here, you'll notice that you as an instructor can see your student roster. But over here on the right, there is a View User Groups. It's a little bit of a couple of clicks to get there, but if you get there, when you click View User Groups, this is where you can start creating your group sets. Now, I created 2 sample groups, so these aren't default groups or anything by any means, but essentially the way groups work is we have groups, and then within a group set or group category, you can have multiple groups within that category. So let's create a new set of groups by clicking on Make a New Set of Groups, and let's just call this Project Groups. With this group, you have the option to allow students to sign up for a group if they want to. If you have multiple sections in your course, you can require that those signups are from the same section, so you're not cross-pollinating your course roster. You have the ability to split students into a certain amount of groups. So, for example, we might split up our students into 3 equal groups. You have the option to create the groups manually if you want, instead of having Canvas create those groups for you. So let's go ahead, and for this particular project group, we can allow self-sign-up, create 3 different groups, and we can limit students to a specific number. So, for instance, maybe each group will have a number of 5 people. And any group that has reached that limit to 5, students may no longer sign up for that. We'll just create the category. And now we have 3 project groups under the group project subbing or category. So, as something to think about, students can be part of multiple group sets, but they can only be part of one group within a group set. This particularly becomes important when you are creating group ones, because when you're giving out group grades and things like that, you can't give a grade to someone who's in 2 groups at once, because they will put a different grade. So you want to make sure that students can only assign themselves to one group. And Canvas won't allow them to assign to multiple groups within the same group set. Once you created this group, there are a lot of things you can do here. You can change the name of the particular group, for example. So Project Group 1 might be focusing on cardiovascular training. Project Group 2 might be focusing on strength training. Project Strength Training. And maybe Project Group 1. So you can make it and customize it as much as you want. They don't have to be like Group B, C, D, or whatever. Flexibility training. Okay. So you created several different groups here. Another thing you can do is you can change the name of the group if you want. So perhaps you don't want self-sign-up. Maybe it's something you're going to manually create. They're not project groups, they're something else. So you can You can name it whatever you want. So there's a lot of things that you can do here when you're editing your groups. Two students to a group, you can just simply click and drag and move a participant into that group. It decided that this was going to be a group where you were allowing students to self-assign or assign themselves. That's two. You can also come here under the People tab, click on the user groups, and view who's a group and who hasn't. So those who have not necessarily assigned themselves, you can actually message them directly and say, hey, you know, you need to go ahead and be, you haven't assigned yourself to a group, so go ahead and choose a group. So if you want students to assign themselves, you have the options here where you can message those students who have not chosen a group yet. So that's another way you can kind of say, hey, I know that you have not assigned yourself to a group, so go ahead and please choose one of the groups. Otherwise, if you're going to manually enroll them, you don't need to message those students. You're just going to drag them over to the correct group. So let's just drag a couple of more people over here. Group. So now find everyone in our class to a specific group. All right, so a couple of other things you should know within groups is that each group, you see here I have three groups. I have activity group, I have study groups, and I have project groups. Each group has their own group page as well. So if I click over to a specific project group for flexibility training, you notice that that group has its own environment. And this is another place for collaboration. This environment, anyone who is a member of this group can automatically send announcements to each other, just like they would if you were in a class. Create pages, sort of like wiki pages, so they can create as many pages as they want. You can see the members of that group just by clicking on it. They set up discussions, and they can put some files there for each other. They can create conferences, which is sort of like webinars, and they can also set up some collaborative documents and projects there to work on together. So this is purely their group space. It has nothing to do with the course itself. You as an instructor can always go into any group page and see kind of what's going on. There's no gradebook associated with it, so you can't actually grade anything in here. So if they did a project together or if they updated some pages together, you can't necessarily grade that. So at some point, even if they do any project in the space, they have to export it somehow and actually submit it to the right place in the course. You've created a group from a student perspective. If I head and masquerade as a student here, student perspective, I am masquerading as Cindy Brady. You see that the student can see their courses and they can see their groups as well. So their groups will be listed here, and then they can just go directly to a group page. This particular user has over 80 groups, but essentially they can find the group that they are participating in here, project group cardiovascular training, and she can click on that group directly and then go to directly to that group page. Notice here that the project group name is listed here, and then underneath it, it tells you which courses that group is associated with. So that's how the student would navigate directly to that group, directly to under her courses groups, and then click on the group that she wants to go directly to. So for pure purpose collaboration, this is a space that any member in the group can use or leverage to communicate with each other, to post information, files, discuss ideas, and great conferences and collaborative projects. So because this is similar to the course homepage, because the course page also has announcements and discussions and pages and things like that, as an instructor or as a facilitator of the course, you have to kind of initiate your students to let them understand and differentiate between a course group and the course page, because you may say, go to your discussions and contribute to a topic, and they may accidentally find themselves in the discussions of a group page and not realize that they're in the wrong space. So there's some important distinctions to be made here, but I think if you facilitate your course and constantly let students know where to go at what time and stuff, that they can leverage this accordingly. Now, if you leverage the project group or a group for this space, that's okay too. Sometimes you want to create project groups for the purposes of when you're creating assignments, so it can be quote unquote group assignments. So essentially you're not interested in having a collaborative space like this for a specific group. You're mostly interested in having people submit as a group assignment and then grade that assignment as a group. If that's the case, when you create a group, you're still going to, by default, create a project group space or a group space here. So my advice to you would be to kind of create a workaround. Because thinking of leveraging this space, you might want to create a page or something like that, or an announcement that sort of says, hey, this is not where content is, please make sure you go back to your course, or a redirect, or once again, create some sort of announcement in your class to make sure that and knows that this space is not going to be sort of leveraged or used. All right, so once you've created your groups, the next place I want to go to is the discussions. Discussions are another place where you can kind of have a collaborative environment. You don't necessarily need to set up groups, because you can just know that you have a space here for students to collaborate and discuss. So to add a new discussion, you would just click Add Discussion and can put whatever topic you want for discussion. And prompts here, and again, just have a nice threaded discussion. Whether it's graded or ungraded, it's totally up to you. Click Save, and then just have the group to participate. Students can participate in that topic simply by playing and having a group environment to kind of to discuss something. So nothing new. It's still a collaborative space. You're still promoting collaboration or discussion, a group discussion. Sometimes what happens, though, is that instructors want to sort of smaller group discussion, or a group discussion that is sort of more intimate. So they will create example. They create sort of having 3 little discussions or 3 topics for each of the project groups or something like that. Just make the group discussion. They'll just turn the discussion into a group discussion. So I'm going to click on Sample Group Discussion. I've created a discussion here. To leverage this as a group discussion, I have to make sure that it's a grade discussion. So to make it a graded discussion, I have these additional options sort of. If it's ungraded, then it's just a discussion for everyone to participate in. If I grade the discussion, then I have this ability to make this a group discussion if I wanted to. So by making it a group assignment, I can now choose which group I want to participate in this discussion. So I'm going to click on Project Groups. Now remember, we've had 3 different groups in that category. So what will happen is when the participant or the student goes into that discussion forum, they're only going to see the posts and the replies of students in their group. So consider this sort of a filtering process rather than true group project. So when you create a discussion and you want to make it sort of a more small group discussion, or you want a more intimate conversation, you say this is a group assignment, and then assign it to project groups. And then those students in those 3 different groups will only see the conversations within that group. The ability to assign grades to each student individually within that group. So once you create a group assignment, essentially what happens is when you grade it, you can grade the students the same across the entire group. You can choose to grade students individually. So in the case of a discussion, it might be nice that to use or leverage groups as a way to make sort of smaller, intimate, small group discussions, but still grade everyone individually as if their participation is not dependent on the group specifically. So that's one way to kind of make these groups a little bit more intimate. So as a student going into my course, so I'll go back into my student name, my discussions, discussion here. We'll only see the course, this discussion that's based, I will see the conversation based on my, my students. If I go into my, but note what happens here. Simple group discussion, because I've set into specific groups, it actually shows up under the group. So if this student actually went to the group itself, so if she actually went to the project, the page, note her discussions in this group environment listed. No other discussions from the course is listed because it's not a group discussion. So when you keep in mind when you're designing this, I mean, it can get tricky a little bit for the student. When you're in a group discussion, it will show up in their group, in their group environment. And then when they try to go back to the class, they can kind of get lost. They're like, wait a minute, I was just in the class discussion, because that's how they access the group discussion. It launches them into the group page, so how are they going to get back to class? When they click home, they're back to their home page of the group, not the class. You have to make sure to go back to the fitness or the original course to kind of go back that way. So that's kind of how you make group discussions. So you know this is a graded discussion from the instructor point of view, and there's 3 different groups. Each group will see the course differently. We'll see the conversations based on the group. Assignments are also another place you can create groups. So if it's not a discussion forum, so I've created a sample group assignment here. Just like anything else, you would then, when you edit the assignment, you would select under advanced options the ability to this a group assignment. And again, you can assign grades to each person individually or just make this just a group assignment and decide which group you to give that assignment to. Now, keep in mind that students can submit the assignment multiple times. A student in a group submits an assignment. All of those assignments, all the people in the group having submitted. So if I have 5 people in the group and Cindy Brady submits the assignment, then everybody else in the group, in Cindy's group, also see that they've submitted an assignment as well. Keep that in mind. When you go to the assignment to click on Submit Assignment, it will say that they've already submitted. So a person submits an assignment, it counts towards everyone in the group. That being said, if someone else in the group submits the assignment again, overwrite the original submission. As the instructor can see that submission, but the students will only see the latest submission that's been created. So let me just show you kind of from the student point of view what that looks like. From Cindy Brady's point of view, it goes into assignments. And that sample assignment that we've created, sample group assignment. Create a submission criteria. Okay. She creates so she goes into her sample assignment called Submit Assignment. Someone had already submitted from her group. Not see this button. It would simply say submission details. That's all it's saying. So you could see when that assignment was submitted, what the latest assignment looks like, the details of the submission, what that assignment was. So when a person submits an assignment from their group, it'll tell you. Keep in mind the submission will count for everyone in your project group. So she is creating a submission. Text. Okay. And she can also create a comment for everyone in her group. Her group will get that comment if once it, and she'll comment to the whole group. Otherwise, it's just the instructor who will see that comment. Maybe she says something like, end up sending it to everybody in the group. But anyway, so she could send the comment to everyone in the group so everyone knows that she submitted. But even if she didn't submit a comment, everyone would know because they would have they would see the submission details. So you click on Submit Assignment. Now everyone in the group will have officially submitted. So anyone else in that group who comes to this page to submit their assignment, they see that the submission has been turned in. And they will see the submission details by clicking on submission details, and they see what city submitted. If there are any comments associated with it, they would see them here as well. They will be able to download that submission if they wanted to, so they can view the original entry. So here, Cindy Brady submitted at September 25th for the day. Now, you see this button that says Resubmit Assignment. Any student in that group can technically resubmit that assignment and overwrite what basically Cindy submitted. From an instructor point of view, however, I see the multiple submissions. So if somebody did accidentally submit again, as a student, when I go to view original entry or view submission details, I'm only going to see the latest entry. But as an instructor from the gradebook, I will be able to see the multiple entries. So nothing is essentially lost. But again, it's important when you are creating group assignments in your prompts to be able to kind of note the differences so that people aren't multiple times and overriding each other's words. All right, so we've talked about group assignments. Now you set them up at the assignment level and at the discussion level. Now quizzes cannot have group assignments. Obviously, you can't set those up to group assignments. The next part I want to talk about is collaboration. Anybody have any questions on how to set up assignments, group assignments, or group discussions? I'll pause there. Explanatory. Hopefully this isn't too overwhelming. All right, so the next thing we want to go into is collaborations. Collaborations, once again, is another space for students to collaborate on a particular project or document. And there's two ways you can do collaborations. You can leverage Etherpad or you can leverage Google Documents. So to start a new collaboration, you have to make sure if you're going to use Google Docs, you have to enable Google Docs on your campus. So from an administrative point of view, Google Docs has to be enabled. And then also from a user point of view, Google Docs have to be enabled as well. So what I mean by that is go into your user settings. You list that I have registered Google Docs. So this was available to me because my administrator has made it available to me in the system. So it was over here at one point, and I registered it and said, yes, please sync Canvas to this address in Google Docs. Okay. So can create I can create collaborations here, Google Docs. Collaborations, here's two ways you can create collaborations. Click on collaboration, the ability to use Etherpad or Google Docs. Etherpad, we'll start with that and kind of show you that process. So we'll do sample. Now here's where the groups come into play. Who's going to collaborate on this document? Bobby, Brady, you can add people one at a time if you want it to be sort of a collaborative effort amongst individual people. Or if you've set up your group already, you can immediately just say, you know what, I want project flexibility training to be collaborating on this project. You can start collaborating. When you start collaborating, you'll essentially launch an Etherpad document here. So you could create a document. And now all of a sudden you see the document here. So I'm going to click on delete, and then you can start typing in text. As I'm typing in here, you can see that my color is associated, with my name and my color. So everything I'm typing is associated with me. And to go to, as from a student perspective, if I am in here as I click refresh, only see the collaboration that she's assigned to. If not assigned to a collaboration, she won't see it. Okay, so if she's not in the flexibility group, she's not going to see it, and she's in the cardiovascular group, so she's not going to see the demo collaboration that I've done and I've created for her. So then, if I want her to be part of it, when I create these collaborations, I may want to edit the collaboration and actually add her to it if I wanted her to see it. Oops, exit out of this. Well, essentially, she'll only see the ones that she's assigned to. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so again, with some additional things here, additional features here with the Etherpad, I have the ability to change the colors, include line numbers, not include the line numbers. You can import content into this page. We talked earlier on Monday if you can import different files, which you can. So you can import HTML, Word, or rich text file. Sort of use that as a starting point to collaborate. And also export whatever collaboration you've done as an HTML file, plain text, Word, PDF, Open document, etc. Anytime you make any sort of additions, revisions, things like that you want to add to the document, you can save it at any point. So I'll save the document now. So you're not constantly downloading it, but you're making significant changes. Every month you can save the revision, save now, and hide. You can also, as other people are invited into this chat, you can also make conversation as you're sort of typing and doing other things. The writer allows you to kind of view the progress. So over here I can see that there is nothing, and I'm kind of almost replaying the document as it evolves. And you hit a star, it means that's when that particular document was saved at this point. And then continue going, and then it was saved again. So I can always link to a specific version in the document and go to a read-only. I can edit this pad. I can download any of these formats, and I can see who the authors of this document are. So far, it's only been me. So I can go forward from star to star and forward, or just click play. So that's Etherpad. It's sort of more of a public place to share. And then once you finish your project, at some point you have to kind of export it. If you want to submit as an assignment, then the assignment submission has to come in one of those formats. You probably want to either create a link to this page for your instructor, or download it as a PDF or a Word file, and then upload that file to the assignment page. In essence, an instructor can still come here and look at your collaboration, but she or he can't grade it officially. She would have to grade it through the speed grader, and the speed grader is not associated with a collaboration. It's associated with an assignment. So unless you submit something to the assignment page, you really grade this, unless you have two windows open and things like that. But essentially, you want the product of this collaboration to be submitted as an assignment. The other type of collaboration is a Google Doc. So we'll click Google Doc, and then I'll do sample Google Doc collaboration here. Once again, I can either leverage groups if I wanted to, or individual participants, and just sort of, and I want this particular person in that group. I'm not adding that reason. I'll start collaborating. What this essentially does is, because my Google Docs are synced to Canvas, essentially this equivalent of going into my G Drive, getting a new document and starting to type that document in here. All it does is it creates a link from your collaborations page into Google Docs. And anytime you click on this, you go directly and open up your Google Doc. Now, this particular document will also reside in your Google Docs as well. So at that point, once it's been created, you can always just come into Google Docs and working on it. You don't necessarily have to come in through this particular interface and click on it. And you can just go ahead and build your collaborative project or document, upload, change, add, cut, paste, all that good stuff. And when you just submit, you have to submit it through an assignment page. Otherwise, the student instructor may not be able to grade it. Still see it and make comments on it, of course. But so those are some collaborative spaces. Now, if you delete the collaboration on the Etherpad, it will go away and you will lose everything. So make sure that you're saving and you are downloading this information. Otherwise, you won't be able to access it. Once you delete something from Google Docs, it'll ask you, do you want to just delete it from Canvas? In other words, do you want to delete this link from Canvas? Or do you want to delete it from Canvas and Google Docs so you're getting rid of everything? So you decide kind of what makes sense for you. And so this is a collaborative space. Another point to kind of make here when you're doing collaborative space, I'm here as the student. If I go into my groups, if I'm my course group, you notice here that collaborations also exist here on the course group. So again, any student that's in this course can do the exact same thing, create an Etherpad or a Google Doc. One person is in this group, so Cindy can only collaborate with her brother or her older brother here. So essentially, it's the same thing. It's not housed under the course. It's housed under the group, but essentially it's the same exact thing. The functionality of it is the same, even though it's not in the group course page. As an instructor, you have visibility in your group, so you can always go into the groups and see what they're doing and what they're collaborating on. Any questions on collaborations? Let's talk conferences. Is another space where groups may not necessarily have a role in here, but you can create sort of a collaborative or a group environment so that you can discuss more in real time, sort of have a synchronous space here in your class, as opposed to just sort of asynchronous collaboration or discussions or group assignments. We just found out, as of, I believe, 2 days ago, you can record sessions in conferences. I think on Monday when we went and I showed you this functionality, for those of you who were here, I was saying that you could not record your sessions, your conferences, but in can. So that's awesome. Good. I'm really excited about that specific feature. So to create a conference, you just click Create a Conference, and maybe something like Group Brain. You can look at this. Isn't this lovely? You can record this conference if you want to, or if it's just a brainstorming session or whatever. You don't have to. Put the little description and then decide who you want to invite. So this is something that you just want to talk about within your own group. Maybe you want to have a group discussion with these 3 students in this particular group. Maybe it's a instructor-led lecture, and you want all your students to kind of come in to the session. Anyways, so you create a conference and click OK, and all of a sudden your conference is ready to go. So from a student perspective, they can go into the Conferences tab, and they can join. At this point, nothing has started. No conferences have started, so they won't see something that says Start the Conference here. But if they did, they would be able to see a button that says Join this conference, and then they can join the conference. Create conferences in the course site here, but if they go into their home page of their project group, notice that they have a button here for conferences. And within this group, they can create conferences. They can create conferences here about sort of some brainstorming ideas for their project. They can record this conference if they want to or not, depending on who's coming. And underneath it, the members that they'll see are the members in the group. Essentially, if you are going to create groups and sort of segregate your course rosters accordingly, the group feature would make sense here. And then they would create their conference here so that they can have their own sort of session outside of the course. Any questions on conferences? I'm going to pull up the conference interface here in just a second, but I wanted to make sure we did any questions on conferences. So when you launch a conference, one thing to note, and I learned this the hard way, is you want to make sure that students have a headset. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of feedback, and it will not be very nice sounding, I guess. So even if they don't have a mic, encourage them to have a headset to listen to, so they don't have a lot of feedback from the session. Anyway, so here's kind of what the conference tool looks like. You will see the users that come into your session here. As an instructor, you can click on any of these users and click Switch Presenter, and then they will have sort of control over the mouse and then upload things and then show and share their ideas and stuff in the middle, either through by uploading a document, a PowerPoint, or by sharing their screen, or by using the whiteboard here and then just writing stuff here in the middle. Are all of your listeners, which are the same as your users, but you have the ability here to control and mute certain people. And if students want to leverage their webcam, they can do that, and then you would see a sort of their web picture here. And you can have, I think, up to 50 users, and each one can still have their webcam. I'm not sure how functional it will be when you have 50 people, each with their webcam. But you can maximize and minimize these and change certain the layout of this if you want to. They're not necessarily, you're not locked down to this. I can expand this page, this box, sort of more accurately my students, and they see me as well. Up here, if you notice the buttons up here, I can share my screen. It means I can share my webcam so people can see me, and this is my audio. I can mute or unmute it. Middle, as I mentioned, you can upload a document, so a PowerPoint file, or a document or an image or something like that, and kind of use the space in the middle to discuss and cycle through. Those are the pages. You can expand view, go to full screen, or you can annotate with some annotation tools. On the right-hand side, this is where you have your chat. So if you type anything here under the All tab, you will send messages to anyone who's in the session. If you click on the Plus tab, you will see the list of participants who are in your course. All you'd have to do is click on that participant or double-click on that participant, and you will open a private chat window with that participant alone. When you first log into your conferences page, there will be a couple of videos that will be available. So if you are a student or instructor, you will be able to click on which one so that you can get a quick overview of that of the tool, so that students who are brand new to the course aren't completely overwhelmed at the very first conference and don't miss out on things and get familiar with the interface. But the Conferences tab, once again, it's allowing to record, which is great. We're excited about that feature. And I think it's not yet downloadable, but the recording is available for 2 weeks after the recording is complete. So those things are the differences. I think you can download and keep the session available if you have a license with Big Blue Button. So that's what the conferences feature looks like. Essentially, we've gone over how to create student groups in your course. how to merge those student groups to create group assignments, whether you want to grade them individually or by group. You can leverage groups to create groups. You can just have study groups that are not associated with any type of group assignments, but those study groups have their own space so they can talk and hang out and collaborate on different types of activities. Talked about conferences and collaborations as being spaces that students can also collaborate and work together. And the last thing I really want to sort of point out is from the back end, what it looks like when you're grading any of these discussions, these groups assignments. So I'm going to go into grades. I'm going to click on one of the sample. Click here. Click on it. So when I see this sample group assignment, you will notice here that I only have three groups in that group assignment, so I'm expecting to get 3 submissions. Now, if I grade this submission, I will create the grade here, and I'll maybe put 10 points, whatever, or some comments. These comments will go to the entire group because it's automatically selected. So the additional comments that I put in there and I submit the comment, it will go into everyone in the course, in that group, I'm sorry. And grade will populate the grade book for everyone who's part of that project group. If I go back to the grade book and on that sample group assignment, you will 2 people who are in that group got the same grade. Now, in that particular group assignment, and if I edit the assignment, and I did, you know what, I want this to be a group assignment, but I'm going to assign grades to each person individually. If I do that, I'll click on grade book. You'll notice here that instead of project groups, I'm seeing actual names of students. Okay, so I will see those students individually. So I will have to click through and also whoever else was in Greg also submitted. Actually, they're in the same group, but it's like 2 different submissions, but it's the same submission. So when I do grade them individually, I may give Greg an 8, I give Cindy 10, and I send a message to Greg. Greg, I do have the option to send a comment to the whole group or specifically to Greg. Comment. So Greg will see all the comments I submitted to everyone, and he'll also see his specific comment if I decide to grade that assignment as an individual assignment. That's kind of what it looks like in terms of group assignments and collaborative assignments from the back end. Does any questions on how to add and create student groups, how to create group assignments and group discussions, and how to leverage collaborations and conferences both at the course level and at the group level? It sounds like it seems very clear and easy to use. I'm glad it does. We just have 10 more minutes here, so I wanted to kind of just open it up, and if anybody has additional questions on collaborative assignments, just go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, I mean, I'm here for you, so I want to make sure I answer any questions you might potentially have.
I was posting a chat. I didn't know whether you saw those questions for me. This is Jeremy Nicholson.
See, what was your question?
I was essentially asking when you're talking about assigning student grades individually in the groups, how that was possible when there was only sort of one assignment submitted per group. Should we just, if we want to do individual grades? Should we just have those individual assignments, or is there a way for each group, each person in a group to submit their own assignment?
I think. Okay, so if you want each person in the group to submit an individual assignment, you can absolutely do that. So, for example, under the assignments, point of view, I'm going to go into the instructor point of view. Where did it go? Here's your sample group assignment. You did the assignment tab here. You allowed this to be a group assignment. Assigning grades to individual student is different than allowing students to individually submit an assignment in the group. So students to submit of a group project individually or something like that, or they're in group where they're each individually submitting something, I would probably say don't make this a group assignment, because you're not going to leverage the group collective effort in any way. You put them in groups as a way for them to kind of maybe bounce ideas off each other, work together, but each person is specifically individually sitting an assignment. So you don't need to make this a group assignment. It's just a regular assignment. Everyone eventually is responsible to submit their work, and you can grade them just like a normal thing, person, individual. But if it's a group assignment, you are going to assign grades to each person individually. The fact it's a group assignment only means if you have 3 groups, you're going to have 3 submissions, period. Grades to each person individually, you're saying, I'm going to grade this project overall, but I'm not giving everyone the same grade. I'm going to grade on kind of what I think everybody did, for example. And so here are different variables maybe, like not just the project as a whole, but kind of everybody's contribution to that project, for instance. Then that's what would make sense. Now, an individual submitted their part of the project, and another person submitted their part of the project, and another person submitted the same, it's all in the same group. From point of view, as I showed you before, this will only see the last submission. The instructor will see all of the submissions. So if I look at the seed grader for this particular thing, here. So individually, I see Cindy's submission. I also see Greg's submission. If he submitted something different, I would hit his submission. If back to that sample group assignment and made this that I'm not grading individually, click update. Groups. In project group, to see previous submissions. Let me see if I can see that. I guess you didn't really submit twice, so I don't see previous submissions. But eventually, I can scroll in and see the previous submissions. So I'm able to see all of the previous submissions there. So does this help clarify? I don't know. It gets a little confusing. So I would always work backwards. Like, what do you want to grade? And then work backwards from there.
Okay. I mean, essentially what I heard is ideally if I want to give individual grades, the best way is to make an individual assignment. And if students are going to collaborate, essentially I can utilize one of those other collaborative spaces to let them work together, or conference, things like that.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Secondarily, I also see everything that everyone has submitted in a group. It's just the students can only see the most recent submission. So I could do it that way as well. Seems like it's a little messy to do it that way.
So again, you can always create a student group.
Yeah.
And in the student group, you can say, I'm going to create project groups here. Where is that? People, project groups, project groups. I'm going to create a project group. In this project group environment, you guys can collaborate, do whatever you want, and then when you come back to the course, your assignments, you're going to submit your assignment to the whatever project. And that project, that assignment, doesn't necessarily have to be a group assignment. Even though that they work together as a group, each person is still individually. So this functionality, this group assignment functionality, really should say, how are you going to grade this work? As a group or as an individual, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, think about it that way. That might make it easier. So it's not that you're not allowing collaboration by disabling this. They can collaborate, but each individual will get their own grade.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense. Thank you.
No problem. One more question here. How can we get the recording to send the students a link? I wouldn't necessarily, okay, so you've gone in and you've done a conference, you've recorded your conference, and when you've recorded your conference down here, it will say concluded conferences, and then it will say link to a recording or something. It doesn't automatically send anything to the student, but could do one of two things. You could do an announcement and say, hey, we just finished our lecture. To get the recording, click here, and then kind of do a redirect to the conferences tab. And that would be one way of doing it. And to be honest, I haven't really, because this is brand new, the record functionality, I haven't really played around with it. I don't know if it has individual links. I don't know. I think it would just, so no, I'll have to play that.
I too, work order has to be working on my car. It acted up pretty badly today.
So, do you have any other questions? Stephen Brownson, I will play with that and get back to you. Where, is there a direct link to the recording? Or do we have to just redirect students to go into the conferences tab and then just click on the recording there? So, I will for you. Again, it's brand new, so I don't really know myself. And that's Canvas. It keeps changing on you. All right, so we have about 5 more minutes. Any other questions?
Just on as far as the training recordings of these sessions, when we access those?
I've sent Sean a link to all the recordings, and that's what I'll do. I'll send Sean the link to the recording too, and then I would definitely get with Sean, and he'd be able to forward you the link. Sean, did you get the email addresses of the participants and the attendees? You should, yeah. So webinar links up there in the chat for everyone.
Thank you.
This link out. I'll also do a follow-up on the, so a follow-up question I have as sort of asked with to find out is what's direct link to these recordings for the conferences, not just these webinar recordings, but the conferences, and how I'll get that to you. And then also put in some additional tutorials and guides that specifically go to the conferences information. And then that, like I said, if you have any other additional questions, by all means, please forward them to me, and I will be happy to help answer anything you have. So thanks so much for joining me this evening. I know it's a little bit of a late lecture, but I hope that you found it valuable and useful.